conscious of that. All of you have got microphones on your desk. Can you please make sure that it's only on red when you're speaking? Worst case scenario, don't worry, because I have the overall control, so I may be able to cut you off. The clock also will go up on the screen when people either want to speak or ask a question, and this will be for 2 minutes. And later on in the programme, I'm really pleased to say that we will be commencing our new Deputies speaker programme, so we can encourage people to speak who haven't spoken before. So just the last piece of housekeeping, approval of our previous minutes from last plenary in March 2022. I'd like to thank Lee Dawkin, who provided a small amendment. I haven't had anything else. Thank you. The minutes are going to be approved. Thank you. I'm now going to ask Russell Conn to speak. He is the outgoing president of the Manchester Rec Council. You can see his magnificent chain that he's wearing there. He's done an absolutely fantastic job. I'd like to thank him for everything that he has done. So over to you, Russell. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President Marie, fellow deputies, Baruch haba. May I, as President of the Jewish Representative Council Greater Manchester region, welcome you to our fair city and hope that you have had a thoroughly enjoyable weekend here amongst us. They say that Manchester has 4 climates in 1 hour, never mind in a day, but that belies the warmth of its welcome. Manchester is truly honoured that we were the last host of the regional weekend in 2019 and the first post in the post-pandemic era, although, as many of us will be aware, Michael Wiggier has succumbed to COVID, and I'm sure we all wish him a refuah shalema. We gather together, I hope, in a spirit of friendship and collaboration. It is crucial that we deputies take our responsibilities very seriously. We must always remember that we're here to represent our constituencies and not our own personal agendas. If the board is truly to be acknowledged as a Jewish parliament, then it is incumbent on all of us to behave with respect, dignity, and above all with the achdut that the wider Jewish world requires and expects. I hope this was typified by the wonderful Havdalah service we enjoyed in Whitefield Shul last night. And we fulfilled the words of the song, Hine matomu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is to sit down together in harmony. It rounded off an inspiring and uplifted Shabbat here in North Manchester. And I personally want to thank Sarah Radivan, who was ably assisted by her husband, Barry, the wine and whiskey pourer par excellence. Sarah, you have done an amazing job. Does the applause get added to my time? And Sarah, you have done an amazing job, and the Manchester community is proud to have you as an adopted and honorary Mancunian. Marie, in welcoming you formally once again to Manchester, I want you to know how much Manchester appreciates all that you and your honorary officers do on our behalf. The partnership that has been forged over many years between the metropolis and what we like to think as the regional capital of England is crucial for the success of the Jewish community in the United Kingdom. I hope that our deliberations and debates today will be conducted in the spirit of fraternal love and friendship. And for a few hours, we can come together in peace and unity. And when we have done, I hope that all of us will have a safe journey home. With those few words of welcome, I will hand you back to our chair, Marie. Thank you.
Thank you. And once again, we're very, very pleased to be here and absolutely want to thank you for all of the magnificent work that you have done in your role as president. And we know that you will be continuing as a deputy, and we are very pleased to hear that, and you will still be doing good work for the community. So thank you. I'm now going to ask very shortly Johnny Weinberg to give a short address, 5 minutes. He is a trustee of Jewish Action for Mental Health and JSense, which is a learning disability charity. And in July 2018, after 3 years as co-chair of its steering group, he was appointed Director of Operations for We Stand Together, the charity working to celebrate diversity, challenge hatred, intolerance, and to build a safer and stronger UK. He's going to give us a short presentation about the effects of the Manchester Arena terrorist attack, which unfortunately has occurred 5 years today. And after that, we will be observing a minute's silence for all of the victims of that very, very, very tragic bombing. Johnny, over to you.
Thank you, Madam President, and welcome to yourselves and the deputies to Manchester. I'm very proud to be a past chair of the Jewish Representative Council here, and in that capacity, might I also congratulate Russell on completing his term of office as president. So back in 2015, the former Greater Manchester Chief Constable, Sir Peter Fahey, was responsible for the prevent agenda and cohesion agenda across the country. And he created something called We Stand Together following the Charlie Hebdo attack in Paris and other atrocities across Europe. And there had already been a lot of work undertaken in Greater Manchester by several different groups. Be that the Faith Network for Manchester, Muslim Jewish Forum of Greater Manchester, lots of different groups who are building cohesion in the city region. And what that meant is that when there was the tragedy, which was exactly 5 years ago today, we were able to send out that clear message of love and hope rather than hate. We were able to go out immediately onto the streets and engage with the media. We had the personnel and the involvement of neighbourhoods in that agenda, which was so positive. It is 5 years ago, and I remember it vividly because my middle child was at the Ariana Grande concert. That was their first concert ever. And so you can imagine the impact. But I was already involved in this type of work with several organisations that you can see there. And immediately the day after the attack, like I said, we were on the streets, and then we came together outside the town hall. We held up the banner standing up for one another, which we already had because that's the work that we did. But the thousands that turned out there sent a very clear message across the world that we would not look to respond with hate, that we would look to respond positively, and that Manchester would be stronger, not weaker, because of what had happened. In the Jewish community, we organised a Tehillim. Myself, Sharon Bannister from the Representative Council, worked with Rabbi Benji Simmons from Steencourt Synagogue, and we had many dignitaries there. The community turned out in force to show what they felt, and that we were standing together with the whole of Greater Manchester. And we were honoured to have the Chief Rabbi and other community and civic leaders come up. The Jewish Representative Council's Youth and Community Working Group then initiated Youth Stand Together, which was an opportunity for youth groups to come together, and 75 youth workers and leaders came together from across Greater Manchester within 2 weeks of the Manchester Arena attack from those diverse communities, again showing that we wanted to do something positive. The hashtag was very prominent, and again, we brought together community leaders. We wanted to do something more. So whilst We Stand Together was already in existence, we became the charity registered with the Charity Commission. It was the slogan for the Manchester Evening News Peace Campaign. And whilst we are based in Greater Manchester, we are a national initiative, and you will see the hashtag in many places, unfortunately, after atrocities, but also positively with that celebratory work that is done. Again, we took that hashtag out. You can see Russell and our previous president, Sharon Bannister, there with many of the people, again, making sure that message is heard. And we were represented at the launch, the charity launch in November 2017, and Rabbi Robin there on the trustees of We Stand Together. The mission's quite straightforward. We celebrate the diverse communities in the UK, we challenge hatred and intolerance, and through that, build a safer and stronger UK. And the vision is that UK is one nation where hatred has no place, worth, or relevance. We do a whole range of work, which you can see on the screen, from anti-discrimination initiative, which I'll mention again in a moment, to difficult dialogues, a column, and other responses to those difficulties. And those difficult dialogues are essential for dealing with those difficult issues that still come up, that we can have the courage to sit down, confront and explore and challenge issues which might divide, but we use instead to bring people together. And we carry on running events. Rabbi Simmons sits on our steering group along with myself. We bring many faiths together, as you can see from those different pictures. We, again, look to go into schools. There's a picture of Muslim and Jewish girls at Withington Girls High School. And at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, we produced an anti-discrimination pack, a unique resource that doesn't just target race or sexual orientation or disability. It looks at discrimination across the piece. And the key there is to go beyond silo mentality, not accepting any hierarchy of oppression, but really look to challenge discrimination across the board so that we can really have that impact with so many people. So we've responded positively in Manchester, as we've said, to what happened 5 years ago. And I hope that when you go back to your communities, you can take that agenda forward, and we're more than happy to support any of you in doing that. Thank you for your time. And we remember 22 angels today who 5 years ago, as innocents, died.
Thank you, Deputies. Can I ask you all to stand up if you can for 1 minute in memory? Thank you. Again, our thoughts and prayers are with the families of all those who were murdered and wounded, who have suffered from the trauma of that bombing. Moving on, thank you, to the President's statement. First of all, let's have some mazel tovs. Flo, it's her birthday next week. She's not going to tell us how old she is, but she's incredible. She still does marathons. She really is to be commended, but she has a very, very special birthday. So happy birthday, Flo. To Bruce Rothberg on his recent marriage, to Noah Katz, who was elected Vice President Education at Lancaster University Students' Union, and to the National Scrutiny Council of the NUS, and to our own Joy Wolf on the birth of her first great-grandchild. And we also want to welcome Anna Silva to our staff team as Education Officer, and that takes us up in Manchester now to 3 members of staff. We have our new Director of Procure, we have our Education Officer, and of course Sarah Radovan, our Regional Manager, all based in Manchester as part of our regional strategy. So that's very important to us. And condolences to Denise Lester on the very, very sad loss of her mother, Jean. Turning to the President's statement, in addition to the statement, I just want to update you all on what's happening in relation to the letters that we have sent to John McDonnell, and the other MP who attended the rally, the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign rally on the 14th of May. This now is the top story on the Jewish news, just so that you can see. And as a reminder, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, together with a number of organisations, including Stop the War, organised an anti-Israel demonstration. So two Labour MPs spoke. We were given footage of this event, and there was chanting in Arabic for the spokesperson of Hamas's military arm, and it basically was saying that the Israeli city of Kiryat Shimona should be bombed. We had registered very serious concerns, and we have sent letters to the MPs concerned, to John McDonnell and to Zara Sultana. We do have a reply that's just in from John McDonnell, which I will read you part of that reply. I'm told that I'm able to see a record of his speech. He says, "I was not aware of the speeches or chants you have cited in your letter, but let me make it absolutely clear that, of course, I disassociate myself from and condemn any anti-Semitic statements, speeches, or chants or calls for violence if they took place here or on any other occasion. I always have and always will do so. One can never control what others say." He said, "I did so in support of the anti-apartheid campaign, support BDS in South Africa many years ago." Suffice it to say that that response is not going to be satisfactory. We will be following that up further, and he's still going to be asked to condemn what has happened, because the letter is evasive in that respect. So I will let you know. I will let you know more on that as that develops. Can I also take this opportunity in relation to BDS to thank the government that have really been so supportive to the community, and they have said in the Queen's speech that a bill will be specifically put forward to combat BDS. And we have for many, many years campaigned to the government how toxic BDS is, how it poisons intercommunal relationships, and it's an active impediment towards any peaceful resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And it's very important that local authorities and government do not have the ability or the power to carry out BDS as part of their contractual obligations. So we have written to Michael Gove, the Secretary of State for Levelling Up Housing and Communities, to thank him. And we will be following this up and liaising with a number of government officials to ensure that any key points relating to BDS are not overlooked when it comes to the actual drafting of the proposed legislation. And we will also refer it to the APPG of British Jews, which is now co-chaired by Robert Jenrick as well, who replaced Christian Wakeford. And this is a very important piece of legislation for the community. So I think it's very important that we make sure that we thank the government and all put our efforts to making sure that that is followed up. I'd also like to comment on what's happened, which is deplorable, to the National Union of Students. It's absolutely an outrage what has happened there, and the government has made it clear that they are cutting all ties from NUS. They will be removed from all department for education groups. This is absolutely something that's been unknown before. And in taking this step, the government has specifically described how allegations of anti-Semitism, which have been well documented, they span several years, have prompted a real feeling of insecurity amongst Jewish students across the country, and a worry that there's systemic anti-Semitism within the organisation which is not being properly addressed. So again, we must thank the government for this. This is absolutely supportive of the community, and we understand that there is going to be a special investigation, which we await the outcome of to see what is going to happen there. There is going to be an independent QC that is being appointed to investigate, but there is now a clear choice for NUS. They either have to behave properly and they have to represent all of their students, including Jewish students, or their behaviours are not going to be allowed by the government to persist, and they will become a complete and utter irrelevance. So let's hope that NUS makes the right choice and wants to represent all of its students, including the Jewish students. But to be frank, these issues are not new. We remember the actions of the past NUS president, Malia Buata. She was referring to Zionist outposts. So this is something that's been allowed to fester for a very, very long time. And the president-elect, what she has said, the Khyber chant on Twitter calling for the killing of Jews previously, her so-called apology is absolutely unacceptable. So alongside our colleagues in other Jewish communal organisations, we will work closely to support NUS to make sure that the National Union of Students faces up to their responsibilities. So that's something that's very important. Can I also give you information of something that's going to be happening this week? Some of you may remember Reverend Stephen Sizer. There have been reports in Jewish newspapers about the forthcoming trial in relation to him. He's a cleric of the Church of England, and some of you may remember our past president, immediate past president, Jonathan Arkush, dealt with him initially, and an agreement was reached in 2016 for him to cease his abuse to the Jewish community. But unfortunately, he didn't cease. So I have made a complaint to the Church of England. I can't go into any further discussion about it at the moment, but there is a trial this week, and I'm sure if any of you have got access to the internet, you can remind yourself of his past behaviours. And again, we will update you as that goes along. So thank you. Have any of you got any questions? Thank you. So when I ask you to give a question, could you please state your name and constituency? So I'm going to say, I think I saw Carol's hand. So would you like to ask your question? I'll come off red.
Thank you, Mari. Carol Abrahams, Catford and Bromley Synagogue. I wanted to thank you for writing the letter to the chair of the WZO about the harassment of the women of the wall. And could you please keep us informed if and when you get a reply? Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. I will keep you informed when we get a meaningful reply. I think there's a difference between a reply and a meaningful reply. But I thank you for that. It's a very good question. We certainly are going to be following up. That has caused a lot of distress to a lot of people, so thank you. What I'm going to do now, just to be fair, just to be fair to people at home, I'm going to try as far as I can to take questions from deputies that are on hybrid. So this isn't perfect. If you would just bear with me, a minute. So I can see James Harris. Would you like to ask a question? Still, please state your name and constituency. Can somebody please? Yeah.
James Harris, Stanwell United Synagogue. Thank you, President. I have some questions following my written question on youth representation. Firstly, how many deputies under 35 are there at the in-person plenary? Since the board's first youth assembly, how has the President increased representation for younger deputies? I know you made firm commitments during your election, but we're still seeing younger deputies very limited some younger deputies at least limited in their engagement in divisional and working group meetings because of the timings falling either close to or during the working day. There's no younger deputy representative on the executive or trustee board, and there's still no structure to represent the views of younger deputies as a whole, like the regional assembly. These have support amongst younger deputies, but we're no closer to implementing them than we were 2 years ago. As the issue spans across the board, why should this issue not fall within the executive's remit instead of being passed to a division, similarly to the social justice group? Turning to the board's plan itself, why was there such a delay in its publishing? And you say an outline for the board's ambitions in the area of youth engagement was included, but I only see half of one point on youth engagement. There's also no commitment for youth representation in the executive. Will the president commit to implementing this before the September plenary, as she committed to me during her election campaign, yes or no? Finally, why was LGBT plus representation and gender equality joined into the same point as youth representation? These issues aren't the same. And why does the board plan frame them as such? I, amongst other younger deputies, have spent many hours asking for your commitment on this broader issue, something you say you're committed to achieving. I encourage you to turn your words into actions and support younger deputies who are not just the future of our community, but the leaders of today. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got thank you for your many questions. So I obviously haven't even been able to write them all down to reply to all of them, but we can certainly take this offline. I just want to say we have 310 deputies and observers, and 85 of those are under 35, just to put that in context of age. Really, it's an open door. I've been waiting. There has been some correspondence since my last election for proposals for the under 35s to form the youth council and to have a special resolution to put to plenary. So it really is an open door, but the group of people have to be organised to get together to do that. So nothing has changed. So if James or whoever wants to do that, to come together, I had thought the intention was that the younger generation were considering having a youth council structured in the same way as the regional council. That's still very, very welcome, and that should be progressed. I wasn't able to write down all of the questions that you wrote. There were quite a few about the board plan. We did put that out for consultation before it was published, but we still welcome feedback. So perhaps if James can put all his letters, his concerns into a letter, then we can all look at that. But we did have a period of consultation. But it's a living document. It's not perfect. I'm not aware of a broad plan in such detail before, so we welcome any suggestions. Just to also give you some other figures as I've got them, I would also say that we have 225 deputies over 35, and 93 of those are women. I may as well also give you other breakdown as I have this here. The Liberal community is represented by 18 Shawls, Masorti 5, Reform 27, Sephardi and Portuguese 5, and United Synagogue 45, Federation and Strictly Orthodox 7, and Independent 40. So I hope that you find some of those figures are helpful. Thank you very much for that question, James. Can I just come back to the room, and then after that I'm going to go back online, and then I'll have to keep I'm told I've got to keep to time as best I can to answer your questions. So I think the next person, Bruce. No, who was it that wanted to? Sorry, Dorry, you've moved, have you? Dorry Schmetterling. Yes, you have moved. Thank you. Would you like to ask your question, please?
There's a button at the bottom. Yeah.
Thank you, Marie. I had to move so I could see the screens.
I don't want to see just myself or the other people. I have two questions, but they're related. The first thing is, when are we going to stop maintaining the fiction that there's a military wing of the Hamas? Hamas is Hamas, whose main aim is the elimination of Israel, period. Secondly, in your reply to John McDonnell, can you advise him that the only satisfactory response is to undertake to stop attending anti-Israel and anti-Semitic events, because there will always be something nasty and anti-Semitic at all of these events. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Absolutely, I view Hamas as one entity. There's no question about that. John McDonnell, don't worry, you will not be disappointed in the reply that's going to go to him. But I'm unable to do that this morning as we are here. But please, you can all rest assured. Thank you. So I'm going to go again to the screen, and you can have a question or you can make a statement. So the person who I think might have been next was Susan Pascoe. Well, can I just say, I'm told that I didn't mention Liberals in the statistics. I think that I did. I've been getting copious messages, but just in case, I don't want anyone to feel left out. There are 18 Shuls. Susan.
Thank you very much, Marie. Susan Pascoe, Nailstrop Community. I'm wondering why the Board of Deputies hasn't criticised the documentary film 11 Days of May, narrated by Kate Winslet, which gives very little context of the complexities of the conflict between Israel and Gaza last May, ignores extremely important facts, is very serious distortion of the situation, and portrays Israel in a very unfair and misleading way. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. We certainly will be looking at that, and I'm very disappointed at Kate Winslet, I have to say, for her part in that. I think she gave some excuse that she didn't realise, but I am very disappointed. We will be looking at that. So please rest assured. Thank you. Can I come back to the room? Who's not asked? Would you like to ask a question, please?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm Reuben Simon, Deputy for LJY NETSA. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone in attendance here today. Thank you to, and with a whole heart, I feel I can say this now, dear friends and deputies in this room for such a wonderful weekend. And thank you to everyone for the smooth organisation and running and fantastic welcome that we've all had here. My question is in a similar vein to James's, really. As a younger deputy, how can the board better facilitate in-person events and weekends such as this one for younger deputies and under 35 observers, and do more to host in-person and nice weekends and social events for those younger deputies and under 35 observers? Thank you.
Well, thank you. That is very, very nice feedback, and you are most welcome. And we're very pleased that you have been able to be here. Can I just come back to Carol, just to say that WITSO have now resolved not to work again with LIBA. We will still be following that up. Apparently the board was mentioned in the coverage, but as we know, actions and not words, but we will still be following that up. Thank you. Could we come back to, can we now come back to the Zoom? Louise Ellman. WZO, by the way, not WITSO, just to avoid any confusion.
Thank you, Marie. And I thank you for the work that you're doing on following up ongoing cases of anti-Semitism. But I wondered if you're aware of the position of David Hirsch, an outstanding opponent of anti-Semitism who's done great work in exposing anti-Semitism, particularly on the left. He has been called a far white supremacist by the president, I think it is, of the Students' Union at Goldsmiths College, London. And I understand that the union are refusing to investigate, saying that this is simply free speech. Now, that particular comment is very significant because it's in the context of a whole debate about racism and the position of anti-Semitism in wider anti-racist struggles. So I do think it's very important. I wonder, President, if you were aware of this and if you're having any dealings with David Hirsch to offer him our support and see what he would like us to do to support him in what can be a very lonely fight.
Thank you for that, Louise. Yes, I certainly am aware. Just to report to deputies, I wrote to David Hirsch on the 19th of May. I'll read you part of the letter. Dear David, on behalf of the Board of Deputies, as well as in a personal capacity, I wanted to express my anger at the disgusting slurs which have been aimed at you from within the institution at which you teach. I'm also sickened by the support those responsible for such slurs have received from certain sources, including the local branch of the UCU and the presidents of the National Union of Students. You are renowned as an expert on anti-Semitism as well as an anti-racist campaigner. Your work has been vital to countering bigotry against Jewish people in this country, as well as providing an authoritative description of the ways in which such bigots respond when Jews call out their hatred. You have our full support. If there is any way in which we can help you, we will do all that you can to provide you with the necessary aid. So I can confirm we are aware. I have offered support. David has written back and he says how much the letter means to him, and we are very much in contact with him. So thank you very much for that. And I'm sure that David isn't minding that I've read the letter. He understands that, but we absolutely give him our full support. So thank you, Louise. When I come back into the room, if there are any candidates that are standing later for election, could they please not ask any questions, just to be fair to the other candidates. Thank you. Right, can you let me know who wants to ask a question? Michael.
Marie, Michael Rubenstein, Whitefield Hebrew Congregation. As the deputy based closest to here, I'd like to welcome you all to Bury. First of all, I'd like to make a statement thanking Dame Louise Ellman and my friend Nathan Baroda for all the help they gave me in the recent election. My question, which is the first one I've asked, is in the recent election here in Bury, we had an outrageous scandal of Tory anti-Semitism where a Bangladeshi Zionist doctor who was standing for the Conservatives was removed from the roster for posting Zionist pro-Israel statements on Facebook. He is removed by the Tory leader and his agent, who are two people I was standing against. There were 4 incidents that I'm aware of in Bury of anti-Semitism. One where one of the candidates retweeted something about Mossad being ISIS, where he said the Jews are at it again. He was suspended, I believe. Yeah, there was another one who was suspended. 2 were not suspended. 1 who is now the chief whip for Bury for the Conservatives. Will the board be making a statement about this and writing to the Conservative Party to request them to investigate these actions, as I believe the local representative council have done? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, that's correct, Michael. I understand that the Manchester Rep Council has called for a full investigation into the Bury Conservative Party after what's the latest in a series of incidents involving the Conservative local council group here in Bury. And we absolutely support this call. There clearly is a pattern of behaviour here stemming back over the course of the year from readmitting a councillor to the party who made a very troubling statement about Jews in Bury, to removing a Muslim Zionist as a candidate while countenancing troubling anti-Semitic statements from other council candidates. And finally, by promoting a councillor who shared an article claiming Keir Starmer is influenced by donations from pro-Israel lobbyists. So we would be very happy to help and support the Manchester Rep Council, including taking this up directly with the chairman of the Conservative Party. So the Manchester Rep Council should liaise with us, and we will be happy to do that. I'm just going to give the order of the questions so that I'm fair. I'm next going to take a question on screen from Jackie Sevitt, and then I'm going to take a question from Robert Festenstein. Jackie, would you like to ask your question, please?
Okay, sorry about that. Just a bit of a problem. I'm muting myself. Good afternoon, everyone.
I'm having trouble hearing you. Are you able to speak up?
On the upcoming.
I'm really, really, really sorry, Jackie.
Yes, sorry, I'll come close to the microphone. Is that better?
Yes, go on.
I'll take my video off. That sometimes helps. Can you hear me now?
Not really. I'm really sorry. Wait, I'm going to move. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going to.
Yes, I was just wanting to comment quickly on the boycott, divestment, and sanctions bill, a relative reason.
We really can't hear you, so can we unfortunately mute Jackie? I heard enough about the BDS bill, and again I wanted to say that I absolutely commend the government. Can we tech team, can we please mute, because unfortunately I'm really sorry, Jackie, cannot hear, but I hope that I made the position with BDS clear and how important it is that we work with the government. Robert, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you, Marie. I'm following up on Joe Millis's question in relation to the Holocaust Memorial. He asks about whether there's going to be a debate on its location. I think we need to talk about whether it should be there at all. As I understand it, the overall cost of this memorial is in the region of about £100 million. There are already memorials to the Holocaust, the most famous to which is Auschwitz. Surely there can be no better way of educating people, and particularly young people who are still at school, that taking them to the camp and showing them firsthand what atrocities were undertaken there. Also, the reality is that only people from the southeast, or predominantly from the southeast, are likely to see a memorial situated in London. As you get further away from London, the numbers visiting the memorial will decrease. It's all very well having visitors from Highgate or Clapham, but if the people, and particularly sixth formers, who we should be approaching, are not coming from Hull or Carlisle, then the memorial will not have achieved its goal. Educating sixth formers from around the country by showing them at first hand the truth of the Holocaust is, in my view, clearly a much better alternative to having a memorial. And surely isn't it time now that there should not only be a debate on its location, but whether actually it's needed at all? Can I ask now that the board holds such a debate?
Thank you. I would like to say how much I support the Conservative government for their support of the memorial, and I support what they're doing now. They've actually lodged an appeal. We should be grateful that this government thinks that Holocaust education and the memorial near Parliament, the most important reminder of democracy, which is based in London, and that we should all stand as Jews in this community behind the government that have taken that step. But this is beyond all of us, because the government has put in an appeal. There is now a legal process, And to try to politicise or vote on the Holocaust Memorial, I think isn't the appropriate way forward. We all agree that schools and sixth formers and Holocaust education, there's absolutely nothing more important than that. The Chief Rabbi has given his overwhelming support for the Holocaust Memorial. He also gave evidence at the Holocaust Commission, and of course our own Sir Ben Helfgott and many other Holocaust survivors have given their support, and I think that all needs to be respected. There is now a legal process, and on my part I'm going to support the government, and I'm really thankful to the Conservative government who have stood so much with the community in very, very difficult times in relation to dealing with anti-Semitism. But thank you for your question. We are running close to time. So next on the screen is Rick Cooper. And I've got two people on screen. I've got one person there. Right, so I've got enough in the room and on screen. Rick Cooper, then Robert Stone. And come on, ladies, pluck up the courage. Be good to have one of you raise a question. Richard.
Richard Cooper, Portsmouth and Southsea Hebrew Congregation. Turning to the board plan, I would like to commend Marie and the team for this excellent plan. It's clear, it goes into a good detail, and most importantly, the targets and tasks it set do seem to be genuinely achievable. There's just one section that I would like a bit of clarification on, please. Turning to page 13, paragraph 4 of the plan, combating anti-Semitism in culture and sport. I notice, comparing the plan as it stands with the consultation document that was sent out a few months ago, the mention in the consultation document of working with Action Against Discrimination and the Anti-Semitism Policy Trust has been removed, and the general thrust about work being initiated to explore how anti-Semitism manifests, etc., the kind of positive thrust of that seems to have been diluted from active to passive. Can you explain this, please, and reassure me that the board is going to work as strongly as possible to actively combat anti-Semitism in culture and sport? Thank you.
Thank you. I think if there's any suggestion that this Board of Deputies is passive in responding to anti-Semitism, that clearly isn't the case, and that's demonstrated by all of our actions. So I don't think that's appropriate to suggest. I think when Amanda gets to her division report, she can pick up the answer to that in her division report, because she was responsible for drafting. But can I say, a plan is a plan, it's a living document, and we will be working with everybody and all of our communal colleagues, those that are not mentioned specifically, to combat anti-Semitism, because we have to. There's nothing more important than all working together for the common good. So nobody's suggesting otherwise, but I'll let Amanda pick that one up in her response, if that's okay, Amanda. Yeah, thank you. Robert Stone.
Thank you, Madam President. Robert Stone, Trinity Reform Synagogue. I'm going to do something quite rare at this meeting. I'm going to agree with Robert Festenstein, but I also agree with you. I agree with you that the government is to be commended for the huge support it gives to Holocaust education and to remembering the Holocaust. Nobody's denying that. Robert is not saying we must not do the Holocaust Memorial, but we must do something else. He is asking us to open a debate. A lot has happened in Holocaust education over the last couple of years. I'm proud to say that my wife is CEO, is co-chair of Generation to Generation, which has trained scores of second and third generation survivors to talk to schools and other people. The March for the Living has become a well-established institution. There are lots of ways in which we now commemorate the Holocaust. And by the way, for £100 million, the income of that could send lots of sixth formers to Auschwitz. So I'm not saying that I agree with Robert that we shouldn't have a Holocaust memorial. I'm saying I agree with Robert that we should open a debate. This appeal, this case gives us an opportunity to open a debate in view of the evolution of Holocaust memorial, Holocaust remembrance and education over the last 5 or 6 years. It gives us an opportunity to debate again whether this is the most appropriate way of making sure the Holocaust never happens again.
I think people need to be aware that there is not a pot of £100 million sitting there to be put to another project. A lot of the money would still have to be raised. And even if this memorial isn't being built, there isn't money available that's suddenly going to be put into something else. I personally do not feel that we should be trying to politicise or voting on a memorial. Overwhelmingly, the communal figures, including, as I say, the chief rabbi, have been in support of the memorial, and this is now with the government. And I absolutely feel that we should support. I'm not here, Robert, to debate. Can you turn your microphone? No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm really sorry. I'm not. Can you not interrupt? I don't think that's appropriate. I didn't interrupt you. We are in the hands of the government, who have now lodged an appeal. And again, for my part, I'm going to thank the government. The key stakeholders in our community have clearly put all their efforts behind a Holocaust memorial. And we have to wait and see the outcome of the appeal, because none of us are party to the appeal or to see what's going to happen. But I think it's highly inappropriate to try to do that. If you want to get, you know the rules, you've been here long enough, Robert. If you feel that you want to get 50 or 60 deputies to sign up to that, then of course you could do so. But I really hope that we respect the government. And as I say, there isn't a pot of money that's going to be allocated elsewhere. And a lot of the money for it still has to be raised, and it will come from people that want to give into the community. So people saying, well, if it's not here, there'll be this education programs, there'll be this, there'll be that. That's not the reality. And the greatest memorial of all, our Parliament, is the best reminder that I think can be given. But I do take the point from Robert that going up further north, there also needs to be appropriate reminders and the ability of students from all over the country to come to Parliament. And it's a shame perhaps that Parliament can't move around, but that is the seat of Parliament. That's the only reason why it's proposed to be there. Thank you for your question. Can I take from the room? I think that Efrat was next, and I'm getting very, very close to being out of time. So I'm going to let Joe Millis have the last question. And we're really sorry, we're going to have to move on. Efrat.
Thank you, Madam President. Efrat Sofa from the SNP Sephardi community at Lauderdale Road. Marie, it was really great to be in Prague with you at the World Jewish Congress Executive Committee meeting, and it was excellent to sit with you around the table representing British Jewry. And also it was very moving to tour Theresienstadt with you. And I think it was a reminder to us all on the importance of remembering the Holocaust and to work tirelessly that it never happens again. One of the matters of terminology, which is kind of my question, one of the matters that was raised in the WJC Executive Committee meeting was a matter of terminology on how important it is to call anti-Semitism out for what it is, that it's Jew hatred. President Lauder stressed how important it is to call it Jew hatred at every opportunity possible. And I was wondering, to what extent is the board open to use that terminology, to bringing up Jew hatred in its material versus the use of anti-Semitism? Just a matter of terminology. Thank you, Marie, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. Just to say, we'd had this conversation in our community some time ago, thinking about it, and certainly with the Jewish Leadership Council. And I think you'll see in a lot of our external work that we refer to anti-Jewish racism. Of course, it is Jew hatred, but I think we also have to be consistent with our communal colleagues, and that includes also the CST in the UK. And that, I think, is the terminology that we've certainly adopted. But we do talk about Jew hatred. So we're not as narrow as just anti-Semitism, but messaging, of course, is very important. So I'd like to thank Efrat for that reminder, so that non-Jewish people understand what anti-Semitism is, because that's the point of what Efrat's saying. People more easily understand Jew hatred or anti-Jewish racism, and that's an important part of our work. So thank you. Last question from the room. Joe Millis.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I just want to clarify a couple of things from the two Bobs. Putting my two bob worth, as it were. I'm not against having a Holocaust memorial per se. I just think the location of it as present is not the right place. Another thing is, as far as I understand it, the government has ring-fenced £75 million towards the project, with £25 million or so to be raised privately. That means there does seem to be a ring-fenced sum. And my final point, which is a question, what do you mean by politicizing the issue? As far as I can tell, this is not a party political thing. This is people from either side, both sides, all sides, who are opposed to it. I don't think I agree with Melanie Phillips on anything else about this, certainly not with Robert and Festenstein, it is. And this isn't a political thing. This is simply to put money into things that will actually help. No memorial really does what education can do. Thank you.
I think that it was deliberately not mentioned that the memorial contains an education centre underground, and there's been a commission, there's been detailed evidence taken, and as I say, it's not a matter to start voting on. If deputies really feel that they don't want the government to proceed, then you know the rules. Come on, deputies. You've got a few of you talking, but if you are serious about it, you would need to get 50 signatures. But I really hope the government is going to be supported, because the money is available for a memorial, and 25 million is a lot of money to be raised. It's not going to go for another purpose. It's going to be there for a memorial, but there's now part of a legal process, as I've said, and that process has to be concluded. But chief figures, and again stress the chief rabbi, who represents so many in the community and is a really greatly respected figure, has argued in some detail for the commission, has given evidence. Many communal figures have done so, and really the government should be supported. I'm very concerned that there are so many people that here are trying to campaign, but you don't have 50 signatures. So if you really feel that you want to do that, and that's the best use of your time for the Jewish community, then obviously that's a matter for you. But I do not consider there should be a vote. I can see you both putting your fingers up at each other. If you feel that's clever, that's fine. But we should be here.
I'm sorry, President, but
can you? I'm not. I'm sorry. With no shouting from the room, that's not appropriate. No point. No shouting from the room. We're going to proceed. We're not going to carry on with this interruption. I'm running the meeting, so we're not going to have any disruption to the meeting. I'm going to move on in the meeting. The executive statement was sent to you. No feedback there. Thank you. I'm now going to go on to the new Deputies Speakers programme, because we need to be welcoming people that want to speak, especially people that have not spoken before. So these people, well done before we get started. And you're going to all have 3 minutes, and we really welcome and listening to you. And apologies on screen for anybody who couldn't be asked a question. So the first person to speak, Marilyn Keane. Would you like to introduce yourself? And you have your 3 minutes. Well done.
Thank you, Marie. Good morning. I'm Marilyn Keane, Deputy for Bournemouth Hebrew Community Congregation. We're very excited by the new Deputies Maiden Speech programme, which is an initiative from the FNO. This venture is being coordinated by Rob Sassoon and myself in conjunction with Ben Crown, the board's treasurer. Today is the introduction of this new Deputies Maiden Speech programme, and we are grateful to the 5 new deputies who are going to make their maiden speeches today, providing some information about themselves, their interests, experience, communal involvement in the organisation which they represent. If this programme proves to be the success we are hoping for over the next 3 plenary sessions, it will be a regular feature of the plenary session, and possibly could be extended to longer standing deputies who speak infrequently at the plenaries or not at all. The reason this programme was introduced is because speaking at plenaries is a key element of a deputy's involvement in the different aspects of the BOD's work. New deputies have been asked to volunteer for this programme and have been offered support, if required, in the drafting and practicing of their speech. It is important that a deputy cannot be precluded from being part of this programme because of a lack of experience in making presentations or speeches. One of the commitments of the honorary officers is for deputies to have greater participation in the work of the Board of Deputies by opening up opportunities for deputies to be seen and heard, whether live at the plenary or by Zoom. Most of us have undisclosed talents and experience which could prove beneficial to the board. Sit back and please give support to our new deputies who are presenting today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Brilliant. Lawrence Ray.
Well, thank you, Marie, and thanks to Rob Sassoon and Marilyn for facilitating this event. So I'm Lawrence Ray. I'm Professor Emeritus at University of Kent, and I represent Thanet and District Reform Synagogue. In my professional career as a professor of sociology, I've been involved in teaching and research in a wide range of fields of conflict and violence, global society, racism, anti-Semitism, and Jewish identity, particularly in Poland in relation to Holocaust commemoration. I became a deputy in order to be active in the nationally representative body of British Jews, and I'm involved in working groups on higher education, religious pluralism in Israel and Eastern Europe that reflect my interests and background. As I said, I represent Thanet District Reform Synagogue, which is based in Ramsgate, but draws members from around East Kent. It's the voice of the Jewish community in East Kent. It's an inclusive, progressive, forward-thinking and growing community with several bar and bat mitzvahs upcoming and active cheder. We have current plans for renovation of the premises, which will increase space for community engagement and education activities that are important to our community engagement. We're involved in issues such as interfaith work, migrant and refugee assistance, Holocaust commemoration. In this context, we possess a Czech scroll from Klatovy, a town we have long-standing association with. And in this context, we are engaging with the with the board's twinning initiative for bar bat mitzvahs. And we have a research project that's externally funded to research community, and particularly the Klatovik community and young people perished in the community, in order to engage with the board's programme, but also to enhance our educational Holocaust commemoration work. Finally, a communal issue I'm concerned about. There could be very many. I'm going to raise the issue of relations between Reform and Orthodox Jews. I think, bearing in mind the statements earlier about we stand together, the community will be stronger if we recognise diversity and pluralism. And in fact, there always has been pluralism in the Jewish community, and we need to be respectful and tolerant of difference. And I think that is pretty much it. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have Roger Berlin? Right, that's not on my list. I don't think there's an issue, is there? All right, Avi Garson, thank you.
Good afternoon, deputies. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself and my community. My name is Avi Garson. I'm originally from Gibraltar, but I've now been living in London almost 6 years. I currently work in a Westminster-based political consultancy, and I'm co-founder of the Chabura, which is a Sephardi learning program. I have an academic background in international relations and a passion for Jewish history and philosophy. During my time at City University as an undergrad, I ran as the JSOC City Communications Officer and helped set up the Israel Society, where we fought off BDS motions and brought the Israeli ambassador to campus despite the opposition of the incoming NUS president, who was at the time the president of the Palestinian Society. I am the deputy for Tzur Israel community, sometimes called the Gibraltarian Minyan. It is officially independent and unaffiliated. It started as an informal service 30 years ago in some people's houses, but today it has its own premises based in Hendon in the LSJS complex, and has approximately 50 or so member families. On a regular Shabbat day, the Minyan has over 50 people in attendance and over 100 during the high holidays. It is primarily a Sephardic community comprised of mainly Gibraltarian expats, but we also have other European Sephardi Jews and a growing Ashkenazi presence. Like other typical Sephardi congregations, it is quite diverse in terms of its religious observance, but undivided in its steadfast support of Israel. Two of the main reasons the community decided to join the Board of Deputies is because the impression of members of the community, it was mainly due to the Haredi absence, is that Orthodox Anglo Jewry was slightly underrepresented at the board, and they felt it is our duty to join the conversation to help increase the traditional Orthodox voice. Secondly, there is a feeling that there aren't enough young people involved in communal affairs, as has been mentioned a few times tonight, and they felt it is important for younger members of the community to represent the synagogue and be more involved in the board and other communal affairs. I personally put myself forward for this role to continue my communal involvement, and I am particularly interested in the fight against anti-Semitism, Israel-related issues, and interfaith interaction. When the time is right and I settle in, I'll be looking forward to get more involved and perhaps join one of the divisions. Until then, I look forward to connecting with other deputies and hopefully meeting more of you in person. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. It really does take guts to speak on your first time. Now we will have Roger Berlin, followed by Ed Horwich and Julian Pollard. Over to you, Roger.
Can you hear me?
We can, loud and clear. Please proceed.
Cutting edge with technology, I am, honestly. Right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Roger Berlin. I'm the Deputy for Brighton and Hove Reform Shawl. We have about 500 members. And I'm one of 4 shawls plus a Hubbard house in Brighton and Hove. I've only been a deputy for just over a year, and I'm obviously still finding my feet. I'm on the board of the shawl, we call it the council, on various different jobs, one of which is the schools in Sussex use our shawl for teaching RE, Judaism, their RE classes, and I show the children around the shawl, tell them about Judaism, answer awkward questions, and try to give them our point of view. I've only been a deputy for just over a year, and I'm obviously still finding my feet, all rather confusing, but gradually getting into it. Now, fellow deputies, I'm going to be serious. I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but I have a bee in my bonnet. It won't stop buzzing around, and I just have to release it to you lot. Now, I take on board the comments and contacts and the hard work that the board does behind the scenes to combat anti-Semitism. But it's behind the scenes. Great British public don't know much about it. The main excuse for rising anti-Semitism is Israel-Palestine. Sometimes it's a genuine excuse. I won't defend some of Israel's actions, but usually it's out of ignorance. Ignorance, which in many cases is down to all information, all facts coming from one side only. I don't believe for a moment that the British people are basically anti-Semitic, but all the publicity, all the propaganda, all the information seems to be coming from one side only. Let me give you a personal example. My neighbours are an ordinary couple in their fortunes, 2 children, very good to me since my wife passed away, not remotely anti-Semitic. Last year, at the time of the Gaza war, when the Israelis retaliated and Gazans, including children, were killed, they were aghast. Why are the Israelis killing women and children? I had to explain to them the history. The ejection of 8,000 settlers by the Israelis, elections or whatever, Hamas took control, thousands of rockets, etc. You know it as well as I do. Oh, they said, we didn't know. Why doesn't somebody tell us? Why don't we hear the other side? We had no idea. And if they didn't know, nor did countless millions of others. I can't understand why Israel, so brilliant in everything it does, is so bad at putting its case across. But by not doing so, it puts Jews in this country and other countries in danger. It gives the pro-Palestinians and the anti-Semites an excuse. The population of this country being persuaded that Israel is the villain and the poor oppressed Palestinians who are the victims. And with respect, Madam President, I don't actually see the Board of Deputies doing much about it in public. Oops, maybe I shouldn't have said that. All I hear and read, particularly on the BBC, is those wicked Israelis persecuting those poor innocent Palestinians. No public response, no telling the facts from the other side. There have been several terrorist attacks in the last couple of weeks. I believe 19 Israelis have been murdered.
I think that was cut off. Thank you very much for your first speech, Roger. Can we now please have, yes, clap everybody, whatever you think of the speech of anyone. I think it takes a lot of courage to speak up, so whatever our views are of every speech. Next, please, Ed Horridge.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ed Horridge. I'm Deputy for Jewish Small Communities Network. I'm also the Chief Executive of JSCN. JSCN serves 55,000 people all over the country who don't live in the large cities. They live in small towns or they live completely remotely. JSCN's been going since 2003. We bring people and communities together. We support the resilience of their leadership. Recently, I was talking to a well-known Jewish figure who said, oh, you mean the dying communities? I mean, there's a lot of communities who we talk to in the room or on Zoom today, and they'll have their own view. My answer to that was, today, there are Jewish communities in 72 towns across the UK. I looked at the 1907 yearbook for Jewish provincial communities, and in 1907 there were 88, a difference of 16, and most of those that have been lost have gone from the Welsh valleys alone. So not so much dying. For some reason, they're still there and they're still going strong. I knew sort of, we started back in 2003 and I didn't really know whether we were being effective, but I knew something was happening when people started getting in touch. People like the Chief Rabbi's office, can you help us with such and such? The Board of Deputies, indeed, got in touch and said they used JSCN almost every day. Could we help? And Jewish Care, social workers up and down the country. Where did I come from to do all this? I was brought up in Southport in the 1950s and 60s. It was a community of 4,500, a lot of Jews. When I went back in the late 90s, it was getting towards, and Gillian, who's here today, will know, getting towards the figure of around about 200 that it is today. I was sucked into the community, being on the management board there. And when I left and came to Manchester, I again started on the board of the shul that I'm presently at in Whitefield. Where have I come from? My career has been as a photographer, as a European projects manager, but now I'm a full-time community professional. But I work alongside around about 20 others in my cohort, working across all of Europe, doing all different sorts of jobs in the community. JSCN does a lot of things, and you'll have to go on our website to see them. But one Shabbat brought in 3,500 people last year, bringing in people who were celebrating Shabbat by themselves or in their communities. We match schools with communities to talks on Judaism and run the national database for that. Please do go on the website, and I'm here to talk to anybody. It's an open door, and thank you for having me today.
Do we have Julian? Can the tech team confirm to me? Is Julian online?
Yes, sorry. Thank you, Madam President. And thank you to Rob and the other members of the team for inviting me to speak today. My name is Julian Pollard. I represent Magen Avot, a synagogue community which are based in Hendon in northwest London. Magen Avot is a constituent member of the United Synagogue and was founded some 6 years ago, and we joined the board this year. The community comprises a dynamic community of engaged and committed modern Orthodox families with thriving children's and youth service. And the adults provide an eclectic mix of university academics, lawyers, hospital consultants, pharmaceutical executives, parliamentary legal draftsmen, and business entrepreneurs. But we also boast professional poets and experts on medieval texts. The shul was founded on a set of ethos, including an all-embracing and non-judgmental modern orthodoxy, support for Israel, encouragement of the youth, and promotion of women's involvement. Women take an increasingly prominent role in the shul. Our vice chairman is female, and we have a council officer dedicated to female affairs. The community has a serious social conscience, and I was instrumental in arranging an online conference last year in support of the Muslim Uyghur community. This attracted international speakers from the United Nations, other academics and lawyers, and we were partnered by other shuls in northwest London. We were joined by several MPs and faith leaders, including the Chief Rabbi and a senior imam and our own president, Marie van der Zijl. We continue to make this issue one of importance and relevance. We take an active role in the Eco Synagogue Initiative and were recently awarded bronze status. I see my role as understanding the role of the board, what it can achieve in practical terms, to inform the community as to the breadth and depth of the areas of work undertaken by the board, and encourage debate and involvement in local members so that their influence can be relevant. While at university in the 1970s, while I read law, I was on the IUJF executive, the predecessor of the UJS, and we were very active in the Soviet Jewry campaign. I later represented my own then shul on the Board of Deputies, and I was at university with Henry Grunwald and lectured by Eldred Tabachnik, both distinguished past presidents. So I hope I understand the potential and the limitations of the board, although much has changed since then. One suggestion which I may make very briefly, and this echoes points made by others today, is that in relation to the work of anti-Semitism, I think we should be working in greater cooperation with other bodies, such as the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, which is clearly proactive, effective, and committed to defending us against anti-Semitism from the political left and right, as well as from the simply ignorant or bigoted. They prosecute cases where the police fail to do so. And
thank you. Can everybody please clap? Thank you. It's always really, really difficult to speak, and I remember how nervous that I was. Just 2 points. Edwin will tell you of a wonderful new partnership with the ADL that we are entering into when he speaks. Just to let you know about that. Okay, thank you very much, everybody who's spoken. We know how much you would have really put your efforts into what you wanted to say, so we really want to thank you. Moving on to the agenda, and I think we are running a little late. AJEX have undertaken a slight reorganisation, and we need to have a vote to amend the Constitution. So I'm going to ask, I hope you're there, Colin, to come on screen to explain this and our hybrid voting procedure, and then I will read or we'll have it on screen or both the actual resolution. Over to you, Colin. Here we are. We can't hear Colin. Hopefully he can be unmuted. We know you're trying, Colin, I can see. Any news tech team? Okay, thank you for your patience, everyone. If not, I will.
Sorry, hi Colin, it's Lauren. A message should come up on your screen asking you to unmute.
Thank you. These things happen at the best of meetings. Good, we're all smiling.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to.
Okay, if we're not resolved in a minute, I'm going to take it. If that's all right. Sorry, Colin. So the hybrid voting procedures were sent to deputies in the plenary papers. The resolution is put on screen. It's called the Military Association Resolution. They want to be known by another name. So the resolution is that AJEX, number 1, the Jewish Military Association shall be admitted to the board in terms of the documents circulated to deputies. 2, the existing deputies for AJEX shall now be known as the Jewish Military Association in terms of the document that has been circulated to deputies. And 3, the Constitution shall be amended accordingly in the document circulated to deputies. I hope that that's self-explanatory and that you've all read the document. I'm taking.
Marie, sorry, we're making Colin a co-host. So Colin,
I have heard a voice. Has someone got something they want to tell us?
In the absence of Colin, I'm happy to take any technical questions.
I think Colin should be able to unmute himself now because he's a co-host.
We really can't hear whoever's talking. It's perhaps you could.
Colin, give it another go. Can we put Colin back up on the screen?
Right, well, let's...
Colin, if you press the unmute button, you should now have the power to unmute yourself without our intervention. No, sorry, Colin, we still can't.
No, we can't. We'll have to make the best of it. Apologies, everybody. Apologies, Colin, as well. That's just one of those things. Yes, Gary, sorry.
David Jewell from Bristol and West Progressive Jewish Congregation. I don't know if it's the right place to ask, but I wondered why this association manages to bypass the rules about numbers that the rest of us all have to follow. Why up to 6 deputies? It seems excessive.
Can I just say on that, this isn't, with the greatest of respect, it's not the place for a debate. That's enshrined in our constitution, and that is their constitutional right from a long time ago. You probably may not be familiar, but we have last triennium sought to have changes to the constitution which weren't passed. So we're not going to take questions on it. I'm going to proceed to a vote. They've obviously, they're trying to be relevant. They're trying to work together with the Military Association, and they want to change their name. It's not about their entitlement to vote or to have 6 deputies. They've got that entitlement under the Constitution. I'm not taking any questions on it, thank you. I'm not taking any points of order, thank you, on this. Well, because we're, all right, what's the point of order?
At the start of the triennium, all deputies were sent a welcome pack that included a copy of the Constitution that said it incorporated all changes up to the September 2008. And in it, this section of the Constitution says that in the same paragraph says that UJS only has 6 deputies, but in the motion, it says they've got 12. Either we weren't sent the up-to-date version of the Constitution, or there's been some changes made not through the proper process. Can this be clarified? And after the amendment, if the motion passes, can we all be sent an up-to-date version of the Constitution?
I fully agree that an up-to-date, thank you for that. I fully agree that an up-to-date version of the Constitution should be put on the board's website, because what is on the website is not fully up-to-date. And that was with the Constitution Committee. So I absolutely agree. But the point is that AJAX are entitled. Yeah, the point of it is, and that hasn't changed. Sid, have you got a point of order? What's your point of order?
It's a matter of voting procedure. Quick question. For those here at the meeting, for those on those votes that are for the change of name of AJAX and also the Lancaster and the Lakes, how do we vote? Do we put our hands up?
No, it's going to come on screen, and it's going to be the same way that we have voted whilst we've been.
So we've got to.
It's going to be yes or no.
Sorry, this was in the papers, but in order to replicate the experience of meetings when we were all in person prior to the event, we're going to have raised hands in the room, and online people are electronically going to raise hands, and David will supervise and count that. So we will not be using sort of the Zoom sort of anonymous voting method that people will be raising their hands virtually and in person, and we will do a count.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Marie, can I tell you that I've now managed to get it on?
Oh, goodness.
An iPad. My
Hello,
apologies.
welcome. Could you be brief and add what you think is necessary? Thank you.
Thank you. All I want to say is that we think, the Constitution Committee thinks that the Constitution was amended to allow 12 deputies for the Union of Jewish Students, and that the Constitution as UJS, and that accordingly the Constitution document you got, we think, is accurate. And we've had some debate about it in the last week. Other than that, on the AJAX thing, all we are doing is effectively transferring the entitlement from organisation A to organisation B. It's the same people doing exactly the same job. They've merged 3 organisations into one, and there's no real change of substance.
Thank you, but I think it would be helpful just to reissue the Constitution to deputies. Yeah. So I think everybody's fully aware, because there's still some confusion. There's even some confusion in the room today. So there is some confusion about the Constitution. Yes. So if you could reissue that would be good. I've got 3 hands up. I really can't, we're not going to get through the agenda, and I'm going to feel really upset for people in the divisions. The only person I think that I should take, if it's really important, is Brian Bloom, but I really feel if you shouldn't have anything to say, Brian, other than that you want to change the name, it's not the time for a speech. So is there anything that you feel is very pressing to add?
Mute.
We can't hear Brian from Ajax.
Thank you, Maria. I've unmuted now. I just wanted to make it perfectly clear. The association started a long while ago, and why we have the 6 members is an anomaly, really. But we were the forerunners of the CST for many years. We had members all over the country. So at that point, we had more members. Virtually every community in the country had members in Ajax. Today we have 3 members actually physically sitting as deputies for Ajax. Why we changed the name was because our past constitution was men and women, the Association of Jewish Men and Women. We thought this was not right. We are an inclusive organization. It's not men and women. We are all equal. And to fall in line with the Charities Commission, we had to change our constitution and the way we were working. And that is why we changed the name to what it is now. And that is why we are in this position. So I will ask you all, please vote for us.
Thank you.
Organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we now proceed to have the resolution on screen? I will read it again for good order. It is hereby resolved that 1, Ajax, the Jewish Military Association, shall be admitted to the board in terms of the documents circulated to deputies. 2, the existing deputies for Ajax shall now be deputies for Ajax, the Jewish Military Association, in the terms of the document circulated to deputies. 3, the constitution shall be amended accordingly in the terms of the document circulated to deputies. And this is one resolution. There's 3 parts to it. I just want to have clarification from Colin. Are you asking to vote separately for each resolution, or are we taking the vote together, Colin? Yeah, any lip readers would certainly be helpful.
Sorry, all 3 together, Marie.
Thank you. Humour's always good. Thank you, deputies. Okay, thank you. Can we please proceed to vote? 4, put your hands up.
Okay, everybody. So just before we get started properly here, Lauren is just going to be removing all of the under 35 observers and other people who are in here but who aren't voting members. So we'll just wait to be told that that has been done, and then we will get started with the yes and no hand counting. So feel free to keep that hand up for now, but we won't be counting it, like I say, until all of the observers have been removed. So we'll just wait for confirmation from Lauren on that one.
All the observers are in the waiting room.
Perfect. Thank you very much. In that case, everybody who is in favour of this resolution, could you please raise your hand? And I think Lauren's going to bring up just a timer of 1 minute, which should be enough time for everybody to remember where that reactions button is and how to go about it. Just as a reminder to those who aren't sure, you click reactions, which should be on the bottom, and there'll be one there that says raise hand. It's 20 more seconds. Okay, thank you all very much. If you could please lower your hands. And once all the hands have been lowered, I think that there used to be an option for me to do that to you all, but I can't figure that out right now. So, okay. I think that is all hands down. All of those who are opposed to this resolution, please raise your hand. I think we'll have to have a timer for 1 minute again there, just again for people to get used to clicking the reaction buttons. So if you are voting against this resolution, please raise your hand now. Currently, we have 0 hands up, which, while very promising, I will just let this count all the way down so no one can argue that we haven't done this process properly. So we can just spend this next 25 seconds looking at each other and, of course, the room there in Bury. So looking pretty unanimous from here, isn't it, Brian? That's great. Thank you all very much. So all those who didn't raise their hands, that will of course be counted as abstention. And I think with this, we can probably go back to muting me and hear what's going on once again in the hall. Lauren, do you want to let the observers back in? Thanks. Thank you all.
Sorry, I think there's a little confusion, and apologies, deputies. We need to refine this before anyone's let in. Do we have the outcome online? So would someone like to just come up here and give me the outcome? Perhaps that might be a good idea. And then I'd like the outcome in here, and then we will ask if there was anybody against, so that we've got a record of what we're doing. Thank you. Yes. Do you have it now? It's really right, I'm sorry that I've been told that unfortunately they don't have the vote now. So it's not obviously, it's not very satisfactory to do it in this way, and we will refine it for next time. So I'm now going to ask in the room if there are any against, and then we'll move on to the next vote. And I apologise to deputies, it will be more slick next time. So to finalise the voting, was there anybody against? Well, that's the easiest part of this vote. Thank you.
Laurie, can I just say, if there were no against in the hall, there were also no against online. So even though we might not have the exact numbers, I think with that we can probably say what the result was.
Thank you. Yes, we get the picture and we're very pleased, but we realise accuracy is important, and we will make sure that we come up with something more slick. So we thank you for your patience. I'm now going to proceed with the next vote, and hopefully Colin can unmute himself fully this time, because we are going to have a vote to see whether or not the Lancashire and Lakes Jewish community is admitted to a member organisation of the Board of Deputies pursuant to Article 5B of the Constitution. And you should have all had in your document pack the proposal. Colin, are you unmuted?
How's that?
Hey, thank you.
And you've even got the right camera, which is also a problem. For reasons that I don't know, my mouse entirely stopped working, which is why I couldn't unmute if I wanted to. Right, on to Lancaster and the Lakes. We've started off badly. It's Lancaster and the Lakes, not Lancashire and the Lakes. It says the correct wording in the resolution, but not in the heading. So I don't know why that happened. Anyway, it's Lancaster and the Lakes. It's a group of Jewish people based in and around Lancaster and the Lake District who are an informal organisation of the sort that we think the Constitution Committee, having spent hours on this, is more representative of the Jewish communities in the country going forward. And we heard something from the Smaller Communities Network before than has been traditional. And having spent a lot of time on this, the view of the Constitution Committee is that we strongly recommend admission to the board of an organisation of this sort. It doesn't fit in with past situations. The Executive Committee has considered whether size alone should be a factor and has resolved that size should not be a factor. This is a very small organisation, but it's happy to pay a fee to the board, and we think it should be encouraged to do so. And I would ask everybody to vote for it. If there are any specific questions that you think I can answer from our inquiries, I should try to do so.
Thank you. Can people please take, because it's confusing to me, can you take down all of the hands that I've got online, because we haven't started the voting process yet, so I don't want to get confused. I can partly see it online. Can we now proceed in the room to take the vote whether or not to admit the Lancashire and Lakes?
Can I ask a question?
Hi everybody. So we should all be pretty good for this now. I am going to ask everyone who currently has their hand up to put it down until Lauren has removed the observers. She'll let us know when that has happened, but I just want to make sure we don't actually have the hands up early this time. I feel like we can probably reduce the timer length. I don't think we needed it for quite as long as we had it last time. So if we could maybe just put a timer on for 30 seconds on each of them this time. We didn't have a difference in number from that point.
Thanks, David. Everyone's in the waiting room.
We have one hand up.
Yeah, Francis, I'm just going to, I hope you don't mind, I'm just going to lower your hand now just so that we all start this evenly for when the voting starts. So all of those in favour of this resolution, please raise your hands now, and we'll have that timer on for 30 seconds. That's great, thank you very much. And now if people could please lower their hands. We've still got 15 hands that need lowering, and for some reason a green tick. That's great, all hands are now down, bar 1, 2. I'm going to lower your hands there. Sorry about that. Perfect. That's great. And okay, and now we're going to do the same thing for all those against the resolution, again with 30 seconds from now, please. Thank you very much. And that is time. Thank you very much. Andrew, if you could just lower that hand, please. And we can go back to the room. Lauren, if you let the observers back in, please. Thanks very much.
Thank you, David.
If you could leave the resolution on the screen. Thank you. So the word Lancashire should be replaced, thank you, with Lancaster and Lakes Jewish Community Resolution. It is hereby resolved that the Lancaster and Lakes Jewish Community be admitted as a member organisation to the Board of Deputies pursuant to Article 5B of the Constitution. And I'm very sorry for the errors that have appeared on your papers and on your slides. That's very unfortunate, but thank you. Is anybody against? You've now got your chance again. Thank you. So far we have 4 people in the room against, 5 people in the room against. Any more? Right, can you clearly put your hands up? I'm going to do the counting this time. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. I make it 5, 6. Any more? 6. I think I'm just going to check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thank you. Hands down. 6 in the room are against. We're not doing it. Thank you very much, but we're not having abstentions. It's 4 are against. Online, can you please put your hand up to vote if you are against? So that
they've done it. They've done it already.
Right. So they've done that one. That's very good. Hang on. Which is this?
Can you do hands up in the room and I'll add them up for you?
Lancaster and the Lakes online was 61 in favour and 1 against. So that's clearly passed, but we clearly need to get the voting completely accurate so that we are clear about that. And again, I want to apologise. So there were 7 in total against and 61 in favour. Thank you. And we don't have the vote yet for the first vote. I'm not going to take, unless anyone feels strongly, hands in the room for, because it's becoming untenable when there are 6 people against. Does anybody object to that? Because we know how many people are in the room. If you want to put your hands up, then just we're not having abstentions. So, okay. So if you want to have 4 in the room, could you put your hands up if you're voting for?
Yes, please count.
To the stars. To the stars. Right, thank you. Thank you for your patience. We'll come up with something better. It all sounded good in theory, like many other things. So thank you and congratulations to Lancaster and the Lakes. Let's give them a clap. and a welcome. We look forward to seeing them next time. So division reports. Thank you very much, Vice Presidents. Also, thank you for your patience. I'm going to ask the following order. I'm going to ask Amanda to go first, Ben to go second, Edwin, and then finally David. So over to you, Amanda.
Good afternoon, deputies, and it's delightful to be here in Bury today. First of all, I'm going to respond to Rick Cooper's question to the President, where he was talking about the board plan and what was in the board plan in terms of reference to anti-Semitism and culture and sport. I don't want there to be any misconception that our work in this area will be anything but active. The changes in this most recent version were really just there to recognise that the work is developing, and we didn't want to mention some organisations and not mention all the organisations we're going to be working with. Please be assured that it will not be passive, and it will be specific, and it will be active. The President's covered much of the work that I wanted to highlight from my report this month, or for this 2 months. But I want to just reiterate the fact that we've been advocating for many years for the BDS and sanctions bill that was announced for the first time as a real bill in the Queen's speech earlier this month. I also want to cover some of the points that we've been making about higher education. Beyond the work that we've been doing and the support that we've given to the government for their actions on work with NUS. It's exam season right now on campus, and we've been supporting a number of students where exam dates clash with either Shabbat or festivals. Marie's reported on the issues relating to the National Union of Students, and we stand by our Union of Jewish Students in their efforts to engage on this matter. To make sure that the relationship between UJS and the National Union of Students is repaired, and that the NUS appropriately supports all our Jewish students. I want to thank Nina Freeman and all of her team at UJS for all the work that you have done this year and the productive working relationship that we have together. And I look forward to working with Joel Rosen and his team as they come on board over the next few months. Thank you. Marie's also talked about our support for David Hirsch at Goldsmiths University, and we stand by David and his work and will support him in whatever way we can. Deputies will have seen the work that we've done in the run-up to the local elections earlier this month, and the new Jewish manifesto that has been produced. Our work right now is to follow up from the elections and to engage with local councils, and just to highlight that there will be a councillors seminar coming up in Manchester to follow the one we've done in Leeds and others around the country going forward. In terms of parliamentary engagement, we have requests out and are arranging meetings with several cabinet ministers at the moment. Marie's mentioned the fact that we've written and offered our support to Michael Gove. We also have a meeting being arranged with Dominic Raab and several others. And finally, before I open up for questions, can I encourage all deputies to complete the survey that we shared with you that will help us to respond to the independent review on social cohesion and resilience being conducted by Dame Sarah Khan, and who's the independent advisor for social cohesion and resilience to government. The survey closes on Tuesday, the 24th of May, and all your responses will help us in putting our response into that consultation. Thank you, deputies.
Thank you. Amanda will have questions. I know that we are running late. We don't have much time, but I hope that we can have a bit of extra time because we were slower. Nobody's fault in the vote. So Amanda, can you see people with raised hands?
I can see people in the room, but Marie, I know you like to take questions from people on Zoom.
I'll tell you online. I think we've got Paul and Ruth, so I assume that's Paul Hart, and we've got Jerry Lewis online. You can decide who you want to take, Amanda, and you can see in the room we've got three. And if people haven't spoken before, I think you should take the question from the left of the room.
I'll start with no cats in the room, and then I'll go on to Paul on Zoom.
Thank you. Noah Katz, UJS. So as someone that was at the disastrous NUS conference in March, I thank you for the work that you've done with UJS in supporting us. But I want to just get clarification that you won't be giving carte blanche to the government as good that they are simply commenting on NUS's anti-Semitism. We still have to be critical, and we still have to push them against the bad things that they do as much as the good that they do offer. You know, I really do fear with what they've done with NUS, whilst in spirit, it being good, simply reads as a pawn in the culture wars that they're trying to push. So can you commit to working with the students on campus, as well as UJS and other deputies from other students from constituent deputy constituencies who are on the ground, and ensure that we're not being used as a pawn in the culture war?
Absolutely, thank you. So we don't go onto campus without working alongside UJS and students on campus. And absolutely, when it's appropriate to hold government to account on things, we will be doing that too. Thank you. Paul Hart, online.
Amanda, I don't know if there's, sorry, Paul Hart, Mosaic Liberal Synagogue. I don't know if there's a problem between emailing each other. I sent you something quite recently about the disgust I feel that the police feel upset that in Stamford Hill, the Jewish community there doesn't appreciate what they do. But all I'm doing through the CST and CAA is the increase in anti-Semitism against the community there. Recently, they're having their doors kicked in, they're being assaulted, their children standing outside the shop are being assaulted by teenagers. It's getting worse and worse. What are the police doing? I asked if you could call a meeting maybe with the new police commissioner and Priti Patel. And what's your answer to that, please?
Paul, thank you for your question. Marie's just passed me a note to say that she's meeting with the Pinter Trust and Shomrim very shortly. And I'm also aware that our London Jewish Forum, the partnership between the board, the London Jewish Forum and the Jewish Leadership Council are in regular contact with local people there and completely aware and engaging at a local level. Of course, you may also be aware that there is something called the that's been built by the Metropolitan Police with the London Jewish Forum, which is the Metropolitan Police London Jewish Community Forum. We meet regularly, and it's the place where we bring up these issues and discuss them. But your suggestion of a broader meeting is absolutely appropriate, and I'll pick it up and discuss that with colleagues in more detail. Thank you. Marie, how much more time have I got? Because I'm just conscious I'm not looking at my screen. One more question on the screen?
Take a question from the room and on the screen.
Okay, one more question. Here, Bruce from in the room, please. You press the button.
Oh, right, of course. Bruce Greenberg for Northampton Hebrew Congregation. Now, I have a question regarding anti-Semitism in sport. In the recent questions to the president, Keith Appleby from St. Albans United Synagogue points out that Burnley Football Club had a stand named after past owner Bob Lord, who was openly anti-Semitic. And he asked if anything can be done to encourage Burnley to change the name of the stand. Marie's answer points out that Bob Lord was responsible for a number of disgraceful anti-Semitic statements which were condemned by the Jewish community. And we would encourage Jewish Burnley fans to get in touch with us and give us their thoughts on the subject. In the meantime, could the Board of Deputies openly state that we hope Burnley gets a poor result today and gets relegated, not Leeds United?
Bruce, I know you're keen on me responding to questions around football results. I will be on a day like today, on the final day of the premiere of the league matches. I really don't want to get involved in this because I'm going to upset half of deputies one way or another.
Well, I've given my opinion.
But and I'll sit firmly on the fence on that one. However, I would just reiterate what the President said, and we would love to hear from Burnley football supporters to understand their opinion before we jump in with both feet. Final brief words from, I think you said there was Jerry Lewis on Zoom.
Okay, please, no laugh. Come on,
Thanks,
there's
Jerry.
not a time to laugh in the room. Thank you.
Jerry Lewis, Hampstead Synagogue. First of all, can you take the opportunity to big it up for Spurs in their game against Norwich this afternoon? More important, I have drawn previously attention to a bill coming up in the House of Commons tomorrow afternoon, the Public Order Bill, which is going to have considerable ramifications for our community, whether we will observe it or not at the moment. The bill is making new offences relating to public order. Part of it is to deal with the rogue groups setting up traffic jams, etc. around the country. That's not our concern. What is our concern are two aspects. They're going to delegate new powers of police functioning to different officers than hitherto. That will include inevitably the banning or restrictions placed on demonstrations and marches. And second of all, part of the bill is the provisions for dealing with serious disruption which affect public order. And I want to put it to you that some of the activities of the BDS supporters and others associated with them do cause disruption, are threatening, and should be considered under this provision. So we need to put in some amendments, discuss it with members on the committee when it's set up, and make sure that the police do have the authority to ban right-wing, left-wing, and any other demonstrations and marches which we would consider could be dangerous for us or damaging for us. It's a very important issue. We need to act fast, and I ask you, please, let's have a subcommittee to deal with it as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. We'll certainly bring it to the attention of the division, and as you say, perhaps have a small working group to focus on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, very appreciated. Next, could we please move on to Ben Crown to present your report? Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to be here in Manchester. Lovely to see so many familiar faces in person over the weekend, and it's sort of really great to enjoy the hospitality of the local community. Deputies have my report. I just want to add and supplement a couple of quick things. Deputies have management accounts for the first quarter of the year, broadly in line with our expectations. In particular, the common contribution continues to be positive and to flow in from communities around the country. Very grateful to all the deputies who are supporting that. Just a couple of clouds which are flagged on the horizon. First of all, we do have ambitious fundraising plans through the year. Thank you to all deputies who have agreed to be involved in that. In particular, the burden is slightly heavier now because of the loss of, well, not the loss, but because we've decided not to seek another grant from the EJC this year. Obviously, we've taken money from them in the past, but it's no longer an opportune, it's not an appropriate situation. We'll need to raise some money against work we're planning to do there. And of course, our investment portfolio, along with the markets as a whole, are slightly down on the year, but we're seeing some favourable signs there. Just to flag also, it's not in the report, but the rep fee invoices will be going out to your communities next month. Prompt payment is always appreciated. Thank you very much to Lawrence, Avi, Ed, Julian and Roger for speaking today, and of course to Marilyn, Rob for leading and encouraging the programme. It was very great. It was really good to hear from everyone. I hope that other deputies, we've got I think 10 or 12 more lined up. We'll send out another email requesting more volunteers. It would be great to have as many participants as possible, and of course to open up the scheme thereafter to deputies who have been around for longer but not yet sort of spoken formally. Elections. Well, just very quickly on the voting today, obviously we continue to refine our hybrid processes in various ways. Life would be very boring if everything was perfect and smooth. I hear it went well online, and we'll look to improve the in-person experience going forward for the votes here. In terms of the voting for the various divisional by-elections, deputies should now all have received emails. They went out at 10:30 this morning with a link to the online site. If deputies have not seen those emails when they check in their inbox, please check your spam folders. Please check that you're checking the same account that you gave us as your official contact. If you do not have the email, or if you're having issues accessing the site, please contact the board staff tomorrow morning. The ballots are open until 3 o'clock. So if you're in touch, before lunchtime tomorrow, we'll look to resolve any issues. The platform is ever so slightly different from the one we've had before. It will log, it will save your responses. You can go back in and change until the ballot closes. So like I said, again, technical issue to that, board staff tomorrow morning. I think that's all I wanted to flag. I'm happy to take a few questions, but also I'm aware we're short on time, so I'm happy to follow up with people individually and pass the other HOs for their reports. I see nothing in the room. Is there anyone online?
You've done a very comprehensive report. Thank you.
Magic.
Magic. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Edwin, would you now like to present your report?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Madam President. The report is in front of you. I just would like to add a few remarks. First of all, Refuah Shlema to my Vice Chair, Andrew Gilbert, who is watching us and commenting from the hospital itself. So this is dedication for you. Refuah Shlema, Andrew. Andrew helped me hugely in working with the plan, the strategic plan. I think this is revolutionary. I've been on the board for many, many years. I haven't seen such a thorough one, and I thank Michael Wieger for being the coordinator and the actual person who managed to push us all into higher workload in order to make something comprehensible, and I congratulate him for that. What we intend to do in the division is this next few days, certainly before the next plenary, is to divide our plan into tasks and to allocate tasks to clearly defined task-based working groups. That way, each group is responsible for a number of those tasks, and I would like to expect and to even pledge that every task that is mentioned would be delivered by the division on time and on budget. So that is helped hugely by a fantastic batch of staff members, which I have some new ones, some returning ones, and here I just mentioned the wonderful three Manchester-based professionals, that's Sarah Radivan, who we all know, the regional director, and Anna Silva, the education officer, and also least but not least, Janine Rose, who took over Pikuach from Jeffrey Lead after 25 years of work, and I wish her at least another 25 years on that base. We also have Anthony Silkoff returning from parental leave. He will focus on the implementation of the Stephen Bush report. So we haven't forgotten that, and this is a core of my division's work. I also come now to the wonderful news that in partnership with the ADL, we received a very generous grant to digitize a program for schools, for secondary schools, and to actually it's involved about what education on anti-Semitism. This will be for non-Jewish schools as well as Jewish ones, but we are taking also this incredible opportunity and this kind gift to digitize the Jewish learning experience. It's about time we move into the 21st century, and we aim to achieve that within this triennial, and therefore we will be able to increase this experience many, many folds than the one we have. And we look very much for a very bright program and deliverable one. So I have, this is my observation. I encourage anyone who have anything to contribute to the tasks that are mentioned to join us as observers, please. And I promise you, any observer, and we have many of them, who want to be part of the division work can be joined by join the working groups of that and help us achieve our goals. Thank you, Madam President. I'm happy if there's any questions.
Has anyone got any questions? And can I just clarify, not only have we got a grant from ADL, it's extremely generous. I'd like to thank them for £100,000, which I think is incredible, and that they have the trust and confidence in the board to deliver that programme, because there's nothing more important than education. I think we all agree on that. Edwin, I think you've got a question from the room. So can I just tell you, and one online. So you have got Flora from the room and Karen Maxwell online. So Flora, would you like to ask Edwin your question?
Yes,
please?
but before so, I would like to say, those of you who are watching online, you missed the most amazing, fantastic weekend. I can't tell you the way we all gelled together, and Marie and all the others, Ben and whoever else was here. Sarah, I don't want to leave anybody out, and Barry. It was just electric, I can't tell you. I came back from Israel, went to Greece, and then came here, and there's no excuse. You could have all been there. Well, I shouldn't say that, forgive me, but try to come next time. It's the most amazing experience. Thank you. Now, my question to Edwin is lovely to see you on. I wish you were with us, but we understand. My question is, with the notification that Sandra Teacher now will only be working for the board, I believe, 1 day a week, will this slow down even more the apportioning or giving out of positions of SACRE reps, for which I've been waiting for a very long time now? I just want to know, is that going to delay it even further? Thank you.
I'm delighted you asked this, because this gives me the opportunity to actually pay tribute to Sandra Teacher,
yes,
who has been really a rock in all the years that I've been in the board. And I understand actually she doesn't have any more a role to play officially within the board. That doesn't have a day anymore. But I hope that we can call on her when needed. She has been a professional, and I have a lot of admiration for her work. I also missed out in my thanking the staff, Lauren, who is a multitasker, who fills in better than we do any task that is thrown at her. So thank you, Lauren, for that. I see that.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Edwin. I've got to say that I'm really sorry, Karen. You're a candidate, so you're not going to be able to ask your question. So apologies.
Mary, can I take Sheila, who would like to make a comment?
Sheila, absolutely. Sorry.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Good morning. Hello, Manchester. Can I just address Flora's concern about her SACRE role? Flora, Sandra and I try very hard to position you where you will be very valuable, but we have to rely on the connection between the board and the clerk of the SACRE and the chair of the SACRE concerned. We are working to fill 40 places, and we are trying very hard. So please, with Anna's help, if you want to email me and copy Anna in, or the other way around at any time, we will help you. And it's wonderful news about the ADL grant, and I look forward to working with everybody that's been helping with a wonderful programme of education and SACRE representation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for Edwin? Yes, there's one more question, and then we'll move on. Thank you. Gordon has a question for you, Edwin.
Oh, okay. Gordon Globe, Merseyside Jewish Representative Council. we've heard a lot of today in discussions on many different things, but one thing that didn't come up was the cost of living crisis. And that is going to have an amazing effect on the whole country. But obviously here we're concerned with the Jewish community. I wonder whether there ought to be a number 13, lucky for some, unlucky for others, on the plan that you've set out, Edwin, dealing with how the board might be able to coordinate the various organizations in London and in other provincial towns and cities to in some way make provisions or to deal with the potential crisis that we're all going to face. That's not just older people like myself, but particularly young people. I haven't got a lot of time to speak, but you look at the population of London, which is what, 9.5 million people in London. And reaching back to what Ed Horridge said earlier, our communities, provincial communities, and this is a provincial plenary, have dwindling populations in many respects, not Manchester, not Gateshead, but others. And are we on, and it's a debatable issue, is this now a time for those people who are living in London and can't afford property prices, etc., to be considering moving to the provinces in the opposite way than has happened over the last 30 years or even longer? And I think this is a matter that needs a debate. I mean, looking at my own patch, Liverpool, we have 500,000 people who live in the Liverpool city boundary against 9.5 million. Now, that impact on services, on hospitals, on education, on housing costs, all of these things are really very important. And I suggest that the board should take a leadership role in relation to trying to coordinate and think about how we may in future progress and help those people who are living in difficult circumstances, of which there are many. And this is before even the crisis that we are now.
Thank you. You've run over. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm told considerably, but we've got.
I take your point. I will raise it with my vice chair who's doing communities, but more important with the HOs to see whether the board can take on something like that at this stage. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question in the room, because we will then move on to David Mendoza-Wolfson, Nathan Baroda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome everyone to the finest local authority in the country, to Bury Council. Just to briefly ask Edwin a question following on from Gordon's about the cost of living crisis, is that as a local councillor here, I speak to families almost every day who are struggling with the cost of living. It's a lot of people haven't appreciated quite how the dramatic scale of this crisis. I wondered, Edwin, in terms of universal credit and the benefits that are being given out, whether there's more work we can do on that as a community, because a lot of people in our community are now are really struggling. So, I raised at the September meeting about the uplift in universal credit. Is it something we can look into as the board and as the community to supporting the most vulnerable?
I gave a promise to discuss this with the division, but also with, most importantly, with the HOs to see whether it's we can take it on before I can say anything else. It's a major thing. Whether we can fit it into, and whether we can be useful, but at least we could get the people who are the key players on this together and see what we could do with on that front. Thank you, Nathan, and lovely to see you as a councillor, and we miss you here in London, but good luck, and we are very proud to have you as a councillor and so well spoken and so eloquent. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you. I think we should pay tribute to everyone in the Jewish community who wants to put their time into volunteering, whatever political views or beliefs. So thank you for all that you are doing. Now we're going to move on to David Mendoza-Wolfson. Your report, please.
Thank you very much, Marie. I'm really sorry that I've not been able to join everyone in Manchester this weekend. It's looked like some really great things down there, and it was lovely to hear from Flora in particular there. What I'd like to do is speak about some of the work that we've been doing besides what's there in the report that I hope that people have seen, that you're welcome to ask questions about. First, I'm thrilled that we're in the process of registration with ECOSOC, the UN's organ through which NGOs can formally participate at the UN. Through this registration, we'll be applying for special consultative status, which would give us the ability to formally engage in consultations, speak at bodies like the Human Rights Council, and make sure that the voice of British Jewry is being heard at these international fora. Some of you might remember also my ambition to create a formal twinning programme between British synagogues and others across the world. I know that many shuls already have others that they're twinned with somewhat informally, but I'm trying to create a formal framework for this. This has been something I've been discussing with ambassadors, particularly those who represent countries from which there is a significant heritage for British Jewry. I'm thrilled that the German government are keen to support us with this programme, and I'll be having exploratory meetings specifically on this subject with the German Chargé d'Affaires in June. It's also really important to me that we properly celebrate the Abraham Accords, which do mark the most significant move towards peace between Israel and the Arab world for many decades. With that in mind, we'll be holding a reception celebrating the second anniversary of the signing of the Accords this summer, and we're currently in discussions to organise a delegation to Bahrain and the UAE to show how much these moves mean to British Jews. I think for now, I'll leave it there. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to take them. Thanks very much.
Is someone who can have a question for David?
I see a question from Paul.
Here we are. Well done for stepping up to the plate. Paul, your question. You'll have to come off mute there.
Yeah. David, I managed to get onto a subgroup with Ido Ben Shaul, where we were looking at anti-Semitism within foreign newspapers and foreign media. But I had something prepared, and I know Jeremy Schatz had something prepared, but the group's just folded and disappeared. Any news on what's happened with it?
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. I know that some of the working groups haven't been working at quite the speed we might have liked, and that's for various reasons. Of course, we understand that all of our deputies are volunteers and they are setting aside time. I'm really keen to make sure that this one does get picked up. I'm going to be working with Ido. We're going to make sure that there is a form put together for people to use. It's going to have it's going to use the IRA definition as the baseline, of course, and there'll be the opportunity on that to then fill out where people see anti-Semitism in foreign newspapers. This is something that we're looking to sort of merge in with. I know that the Defence Division have had something similar, and we're going to try and sort of put one together that is sort of a merged thing across our divisions. But yeah, so I hope that kind of answers your question. We will be getting properly back on track there. And I should say that once this is up and running properly, the working group's really going to be there to check through the submissions that are made, but it will be open for all deputies to make these submissions. If they see things in the newspapers that they read or the online sources that they see from around the world, they'll be able to submit it through here and we'll be able to work towards this. So thanks very much, Paul. Are there any questions in the room before I go to Joy?
Yes, but you can take Joy online first. Why not? Let's be ready.
Right.
We'll go
Let's
online and then we'll come to Ruth Hart. Joy.
Yes, the reaction to the killing of the Palestinian journalist has been incredibly negative and incredibly inaccurate. And certainly there's an early day motion at the moment criticising Israel. Keir Starmer has come out criticising, and the overall criticism taking for granted that it is Israel who has done this when it seems fairly obvious that it was not, is very, very disturbing because it's extremely bad publicity. Is there anything that the board can do to set the record straight to a degree, at least to keep open minds rather than judge Israel, in my opinion, quite inaccurately, where it was suggested that the Palestinians had killed an Israeli soldier when it looks actually as if it may well have been the journalist in a flak jacket. So I'm just very anxious that the community does everything it can to at least get people to keep open minds until there's a proper investigation, and until people are made aware that the Palestinians will not cooperate with Israel in either providing the bullet or having a joint investigation.
Thank you, Joy. Look, obviously this is a difficult subject. The thing that I would say is obviously an innocent person here was killed, and no matter who did that, that is terrible. Press freedom is fundamental in the West, and journalists should feel safe even in the most, in war zones or wherever. What I would also say is that it's actually been fairly heartening to see that Israel hasn't said that it's definitely not them, it definitely is them. There is an investigation ongoing. I think it's really important that we don't rule anything out on the basis that, if we go in heavy-handed and it turns out that it's not quite as expected, then that will obviously not reflect well on us at all. There is an IDF investigation that's ongoing. The Palestinian side, I believe, also been inconclusive of this. We have raised it with the embassy. We're in continued discussions about this. And I think that these are things that are really important to sort of focus on and bear in mind. And we shouldn't be saying that just because something looks bad, that it absolutely didn't happen. Because unfortunately, in these situations, sometimes the bad thing can happen.
Sorry, can I just add, because I'm not sure if David's seen the latest report, because it was only on the 19th of May in the Times of Israel, that says the Israeli military has identified a soldier's rifle that may have killed the journalist. And can I say all our thoughts are with the death of anybody who's in that awful situation. But it says it cannot be certain unless the Palestinians turn over the bullet for analysis. That's what the Israeli military have said there. But that announcement, it says in the article, marks a small sign of progress into the investigation. And we hope that that investigation is concluded so it can be certain who fired the fatal bullet. Sorry, David, that's just updating.
No, I really appreciate that. I think that on these things, the more information there is, the better. I suppose that really gets at the point that I was trying to make there. You said there were questions in the room, so should we take a couple of those? I don't have any other hands up.
There's a question currently, but you might get some more. Ruth Hart.
Hi. Ruth Hart, Bournemouth Reformed Synagogue. Returning to the matter of anti-Semitism in the foreign press, can I confirm that we can also pass on submissions that we hear from family and friends abroad, as well as submitting our own?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You will be able to use this. You'll be able to use the form once we have it up and running. Of course, not everything that will be submitted, it may well be anti-Semitic. Lots of it will be, I'm sure. Some of it won't be. Sometimes people do think that things are when they're not. I used to work as the incident analyst at CST, so obviously I've seen all these things. But yes, absolutely. If things are passed on to you, you will be able to. You don't have to see it firsthand, but we will have to obviously have a link to the source, either a photo of the newspaper or a link to a website or something like that. We won't just take it by as there if we don't have evidence of source. Thank you very much, Hearts.
Actually, they've been very good. There were 3 questions, but any final question? We're just about on time. Sorry, right at the back, is that Jay? Sure. Would you like to ask your question, please, to David? Thank you.
So thank you for that. Jay Chirara, Jewish Representative Council, Manchester. David, we know what anti-Semitism nationally and internationally on the left looks like. We're very aware and vigilant from those quarters. However, anti-Semitism on the right, especially the far right, is far more insidious and new to the UK and internationally as well, shifting much harder to combat as it hides behind white supremacy, replacement theories, but it's still the fastest growing form of anti-Semitism there is. It shifts from inciting fear of the other to embracing working people's ideals in order to be relevant. So what is the Board of Deputies doing to prevent this? How do we denounce it as a body? And how do we help to prioritize combating this in the international arena? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's you know, a really good question. Absolutely, anti-Semitism exists in every political direction. It exists on the left, it exists on the right, it exists among people who don't necessarily ascribe to any political view, but maybe a religious one. And, you know, so I think that that's absolutely worth bearing in mind. Often there are organizations that act independently from each other in different countries. Sometimes there are bodies that do run across them, and absolutely, you know, the far right have been very good at using certain forms of social media to communicate. I understand that they also tend to be much better at being caught, certainly here in the UK, before they are able to do awful things, of course. You know, what happened in Buffalo and in New York in this past week shows these prevailing far-right views that exist from, frankly, Nazi ideology that are being used to justify murder. And it is something that we do need to keep on top of, that we need to combat. This is why we work with embassies. This is why we work with sister communities, to try and combat and to give our expertise and support to combat anti-Semitism all around the world. I hope that goes some way to answering your question. Thanks very much. I should add, sorry, Marie, if I can, I should add that, of course, we work with organizations like the WJC, the World Church Congress, the AJC, the American Jewish Committee, the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, all different organizations, Jewish organizations and others around the world to have this joined up approach and make sure that we're able to do what we can to combat this anti-Semitism.
Thank you, David. You know, I absolutely want to second that. Anti-Semitism, we know, is a global problem. It needs a global solution, and these international relationships and resources are very, very important. Thank you very much for your report, David. Closing remarks. Can I say thank you to the board team that have organised this weekend. We've heard. In the words of Flora, I think she said it was electric, and it's really good to be with us. Now, special thanks have got to go to Sarah Radovan. She's put her heart and soul into it, and Barry Radovan has supported her every inch of the way. There you are. You've got a standing ovation. Very good. And I don't want to forget Talia, of course. We've got and Lauren. Thank you. You've been brilliant. It just shows you how much everybody has enjoyed being together and how much it means to us. And as I was sitting here listening to comments and criticisms and views, it really made me feel that we are a family. Sometimes families have a few fights, but you know, we've got our views within the family, and it's very important as a community that we are united to face the challenges that we've got, and we try to deal with our differences together. And of course, what's very important coming up shortly are the elections. I think we should all wish all of the candidates good luck. We're all wanting to know the results, but the democracy is at the heart of the board. Whatever we say or whatever we feel, whatever differences we have, we all have an ability to get our views heard, and we reach a consensus on most things. I would like to say, as a community, we always agree, but we know there's space for many views, and that is the beauty of our community, the full diversity and spectrum of views. But I want to thank everyone for the way that people have conducted themselves, and I think that tolerance and respect to others with different views is what's really important here, yet we all remain a vibrant community, and it's been a real pleasure to spend this time with you. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing you again for our next meeting, and it's been such a success having this regional meeting. I'd like to see if we can get another meeting arranged. I'm very much looking in the direction of Bournemouth. Would be lovely. We'd all like to be by the sea, wouldn't we? Would all be nice. Yes. We'll have to see what we can do and what's in the budget, but I think people are prepared to travel and put the time in to be together after the pandemic. It's something very special, and we've all enjoyed the Shabbat. And I want to say thank you to all of you for putting the time in, the effort to come and be here, to travel. I'd like to thank the honorary officers for being here, and Ben's been here the whole time. I'd really like to thank him for that. We've had a great experience, so thank you. And last but not least, Michael really wanted to be here, our CEO, but unfortunately he's got COVID, so I wish him a refuah shalema. That's the world that we're in. So thank you. Lovely to see you. We're going to now finish the live recording, and we can chat and say goodbye in person, which is lovely. So thank you. Thank you for the meeting. Thank you.